We got some special guests here today. So we've got Malcolm and Malcolm Gosling from Goslings Rum. And it is a great pleasure to hear your family story, the accidental immigration in 1806 to Bermuda, and all of the history that you carried along on this tiny island to create what is one of the most namesake brands out there in the rum category.
We also got into a lot of the rich history. We also saw how it is that you guys brilliantly preserve your legacy and rich history, and also evolving with the times, you know, with digital marketing, social media.
Family history, entrepreneurship, great stories. I look forward to everybody out there listening to the full podcast.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoy it. Get down to Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, wherever, but really Bermuda.
Bermuda,
Don't start.
Bahama,
Yeah.
come
All right, we're
on.
cutting. Have you been able to expand your warehouses, or have you guys kind of maintained a constant level of production for the last 10, 20 years?
Yes. Well, I mean, no, it's gone up, and we've been able to manage that. But we're never going to be a mass producer.
Yeah.
But we are in the final stages. When we return, we're going to be presented with the business plan that we have an accounting firm helping us develop for an expanded project that would enable us to kind of rebuild a part of history in Bermuda, talking about the dockyard and in where the victualling yard and dockyard and stuff. So that is a possibility that we will be seeing a pretty big expansion within Bermuda.
We're, West Coast. We kind of, at least this is me and kind of everybody I know on the West Coast. You take like the entire Caribbean, Bermuda all the way down to more or less the Yucatan Peninsula, and you just assume that it's all like right next to each other.
Yeah.
That's kind of the West Coast mentality, if I were to summarize it. I mean, maybe not that constrained, but I
think even outside of the West Coast too.
Yeah,
that's what everyone kind of assumes.
So I just learned it's like an hour and a half flight from like New York.
New York and Boston, same thing. Hour and 30 minutes.
Pretty much anywhere on the East Coast of the U.S. Hour and a half. Bermuda's just off the coast of North Carolina, about 800 miles. So all by itself. So technically not even in the Caribbean.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that too with the Bahamas and like Turks. Like you're like your own separate
1,000 miles north of all of them. Yeah.
Jeez.
So the only reason it's semi-tropical is because of the Gulf Stream comes so by. It's so close by on the west coast of Bermuda. So it runs up there and allows all the warm waters. And we don't get snow. We don't get freezing. I mean, once in a while you may get hail, but that's far and few between.
You get sharks out there?
Because of the reefs, they don't come in close.
Yeah, they don't really
okay. There you go.
Yeah. Now my wife will be, and I'm definitely telling her that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing she's like deathly afraid of is sharks. I'm like, you do know your chances of getting eaten by a shark are like.
Thanks, Peter Benchley.
Yeah, so we were in like I don't know, somewhere in Florida and rented a jet ski and went out there like, well past the buoys and everything, and I just did the intentional thing of flipping it around to knock her off. Scared the shit out of her.
He's a romantic.
And so I kind of screwed myself on that one. She won't get on jet ski with me anymore.
Yeah, I bet.
I know.
But in Bermuda with no sharks.
That's it. There's no sharks.
That could be the next jet ski.
So next time I go to the East Coast, I'm just gonna do a little hop, skip, and a jump down to Bermuda. I gotta see it.
Yeah, it'll be great to have you.
You did mention a little bit before the digital marketing aspect, and I think it's like beautifully done because I feel like you have such a rich history and legacy that you seem to have a balance of also evolving with the times. And I wanted to go with that too because I was like checking out your social, which I mean, yeah, I already want to go to Bermuda, but if you check that out, it's so vibrant and like, I mean, the plaid.
Yeah.
The plaid pants. I have plaid pants. I almost wore them today. But these guys have been, giving me shit about them. And now I got now I just send them your Instagram. I say, hey, it's just a Bermuda style.
We'll bring them on your trip to Bermuda.
Yeah.
Wear them on the plane down. But yeah, no, you're right. It's all about balance and where do you bring in the heritage side of the brand and the Bermuda side, and is it more of like how we kind of see Bermuda, or is it like documentary style Bermuda? And recently, we've kind of just kind of brought everything together really well, I think, and went under the tagline of the official rum of leisure, because that's really what our brand's about. It's what Bermuda's about. It's what people really think of when they think of Bermuda. It's just like the ultimate place to spend your leisure time, right? And how do you do that when you're not even in Bermuda? You do it with a dark and stormy, and you do it as best you could, like if you were in Bermuda.
Taking your mind back there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One sip and you're already halfway there. So
Dark and stormy, sailing, and plaid.
yeah.
See, now that
Awesome.
so that's one thing I think that there's a younger generation that has not gotten into enjoying alcoholic beverages.
Mm.
And I do think a big missing part of that is they don't have a connection to
Right.
what that product is intended to bring you back to. I could say, wine, it's like, people, maybe they don't like champagne, but they go to champagne and then they fall in love with it. And those memories bring them back every time they open a bottle of champagne, which I would imagine is probably even more entrenched when you're talking about something as unique and individual as a rum from a very small island. And that's something that, I mean, if you're able to tap into that from a marketing perspective, and maybe it's because we're dealing with all these kids that went through COVID and they didn't travel for
Right.
Yeah.
They
4 or
haven't
5
traveled,
years, so
haven't
they
been able to travel.
they've never even been able to see this stuff. But I think that's a big part of it, and that's something that I like to talk a lot about with regard to wine, is that it really does bring you back to a place in time if you want it to, or you can just enjoy it. But I do think that that's something that that the more mature generations that are around us have experienced to a degree, and see that there's layers well beyond just the product and the name.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think our marketing company has kind of captured that pretty well, right?
Yeah. I mean, you talk about layers. Their whole thing is like they love brands that are like an onion, because that's our whole like thing, where you peel one layer back and there's just another, and every layer is just as interesting, if not more interesting, than the last. Which brought him to our brand.
Him being Stephen Grass.
Stephen Grass from
Yeah.
Quaker City Mercantile.
Those are the best stories, because once you peel that one layer,
Yeah.
you get enthralled with each layer deeper. And I mean, for me as a consumer, and I think most humans are like that, it's just, you just become tied.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can tap into that, and you can't do that if you're, I don't care if you're a publicly traded company and you got a brand that's got some history to it. If it's not operating like it historically was,
Yeah.
carrying that same sort of ethos,
Right.
people see through it real quick.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
do.
Speaking of beautiful stories, wasn't there one with the Red Sox? I love it.
It
What,
was a beautiful
2004?
story.
2004.
Did you try out or go out for the Red Sox? Really?
No, I was the best baseball player. Well, baseball is pretty new to Bermuda, so it wasn't until like the '90s where we had a bunch of these exec companies come down, and Bermuda was their new headquarters, and so there's a lot of Americans who came down to live in Bermuda, and they started this whole like American sports league. But before then, like I was the first generation to play baseball as like a sport in Bermuda.
Okay.
It's mainly cricket, and
And
I was
football.
and I was the best
soccer.
baseball player in Bermuda. And then I went
Well,
to,
natural. Come on.
no, player. But then I went to school in the States, went to high school, went to baseball tryouts, like, thinking I'm the best there. And I just learned that I wasn't good at baseball at all. So, so the Red Sox dream ended pretty quickly. But
So we were sponsoring part of the Deutsche Bank golf tournament. So we sponsor well over 100 different, before I get into that, 100 different regattas, sailing regattas around the U.S. And we're heavily into golf as well. Both, country club plus PGA and LPGA and so forth. So for instance, this year we're the official rum of the PGA Championship, which is one of the majors. We're also going to be the official rum of the Ryder Cup. We sponsored the Deutsche Bank Golf Tournament, and for this outing the day before,
At TPC ball.
It was at the country club, this particular outing. And so we had, the tournament was at TPC. So we had Larry Lucchino and stuff, one of the owners of the Red Sox. And so he was there, and we had donated a trip for 4 to Bermuda. And so he bid on this trip and won it. And so he says to me, he goes, well, are you going to be there then? I said, absolutely, I'll be there. So the first day he arrived with his kids, he and his wife, they came over, and I said, look, a friend of ours is having a dock party, and I think you guys would really enjoy it. The kids can go my son round, because it was during the tall ships in Bermuda. So they went round to join him and his friends. And Larry and his bride came to the dock party. And he's having a dark and stormy. And he was halfway through it. This is the magic of the dark and stormy. He's halfway through it. He looks at me. He goes, we've got to get this at Fenway Park. And I go, Larry, I would love to. I have a feeling I won't be able to afford your pricing. But he goes, we'll make it work. And sure enough, he had this boardroom at the end of the EMC club at the time. And it just had no name. He wasn't using it at all. I mean, it was for meetings. But it was right up behind home plate with its own little deck. So he said, how about if we call that the Dark and Stormy Boardroom? You can have it for a few games, and we'll rent it out the rest of the time, and you can serve your product throughout the... Anyway.
Yeah.
That was many years ago. And we're still the official rum and the official cocktail of the Boston Red Sox.
That is awesome.
So, yeah. And it was all because of that one dinner with Larry Lucchino when he got halfway through his Dark and Stormy. He was determined to get this at Fenway Park. And it's been great for us.
So are you still doing that as a mixed drink, so separate, or have you...
There, we serve actually both there. So
okay.
So
you
at
guys
the bars,
some pre-mixed
at the bars, then we have the pre-mixed that they serve in the main concourse.
Has that helped business in reaching a new and larger audience?
In Bermuda, we were doing the Dark and Stormy RTD since 1970. We did them in, the original was like in a 40-ounce bottle.
Oh, God, okay.
It was 20% or something.
It was ridiculously strong.
Yeah. But I mean, we've had it in the can my whole life, and we've had it in the U.S. market since, 2010?
Something like that. Yeah.
So well before this whole RTD.
Before the, yeah.
We were well ahead of our time.
Yeah.
For this market.
Another good accident.
Yeah, well. Yeah. So
I did want to ask, though, because you mentioned your one of your ancestors came over in 1806, right?
That's
when
correct.
They first got to the island. How many people were living? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, it was just a few hundred. But again, the British Navy used it as a frequent stop, right?
Yeah.
And they love to drink.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it made all the sense in the world to open up shop. And then it made all the sense in the world to start coming out with your old rum blends, too, because of their grog, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that tradition for the British Navy, getting an eighth of a pint of rum a day, went all the way till 1970.
That's a
Believe
shame.
it or not.
They got rid of that.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was being part of Bermuda's history is extremely special. And when you go there and you hope, like so many people go there, what you were saying with the younger, when they go in their honeymoons and stuff, all this may change, right? These characteristics that we're experiencing now, not ever really identifying with any spirit that they could call their own. Hopefully we'll be there for them when they're enjoying their honeymoon in the pink sands of Bermuda.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Take those ideas back to Minnesota, wherever they're from.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you ever get kind of a small town feel of where you're at? Because Bermuda, the population's like around 65,000 now.
Yeah, 21 square miles.
Yeah, so because we get it. I mean, our population's larger here, and I still feel like we get that a lot That everyone knows everybody, what they're doing
Oh,
in your
yep.
business.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice to get away, but again, it's so close to the East Coast, right? So to Boston, to New York, anywhere,
Yeah.
to Atlanta, to Florida. There are direct flights, so it's easy to get off the island. But yes, rock fever can be a real thing.
Yeah. Yes, and I feel
Yeah.
like do you feel a lot of tourism, like a lot of people visiting? Can you kind of like tell the difference when you see
There
walking
are,
around? Like,
there are, yeah,
On the mopeds, you can tell.
yeah. There are a lot of boats in Bermuda, so
But we
just
love
getting off out in the water is really a good escape as well.
But we
Oh,
understand how important those tours are to not only our business, but just Bermuda as a whole. And so you love seeing it. You don't mind getting stuck behind a moped going 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
So you're on island time
Yeah,
anyway.
you just want to make sure
Exactly.
that's it.
You're just practicing your positivity.
Yeah.
Thank you for being
Yeah,
here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being
You're
here.
gonna buy so much
That's
rum
right.
along the
So when it comes to, I know your wife is from the mainland. Would you call it the mainland?
Sure.
Okay.
The
so-
U.S.
The U.S.
That mainland?
I guess that's more of a
Yeah.
Hawaii thing, right? Like you have so is it common for natives
To import?
to? I was going to say outsource, but yeah, import.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty common. It's
I just got to think that's an easy
Yeah.
conversation where you're like, "I love you. Do you think you'd want to move back to Bermuda?"
Yeah.
You're like, tomorrow? Yeah.
It was an easy
Yeah.
sell. But also that going back to that 3 months during COVID, that was her first time like spending a significant time in Bermuda, and we were also staying with my parents for 3
Yeah.
months. So it was like a pretty good test. Like, you still like it?
Yeah.
Still like me?
Still like them.
Still like them? So yeah, one of
That was maybe the best test you could have asked
yeah,
for.
It
I
really
think
was.
Yeah.
It was great.
But yeah, we've been back there 2 years now, and yeah, she loves it. Made some great friends, and the Bermudian friends that I have and their wives really embraced her from the start, which is rare.
Oh,
usually,
it is.
Usually,
There's
yeah, they like to test.
a little resistance to the.
Yeah, a little resistance, but yeah, they're very welcoming, which made my life a lot easier.
Good.
My wife was born in Bermuda, his mama. We've been married. This is our 39th year.
Wow.
Year.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel you get asked a lot? Like, what's the secret? I feel
No.
like-
Can't you tell?
Rum and living on an island.
It was me like Bermuda.
Traveling a lot.
The secret is she's incredibly patient. Yeah. It's wonderful.
And so what's the next chapter? I know you guys have multiple generations working within. Actually, I'd like to know about that. So because you have some siblings that are working in the organization to some capacity.
Well, on a full-time basis, I'm the last of the 7th.
Okay.
That's there on a full-time basis. My sister, who recently retired, is chairman of the board. And my cousin is still very much a director. He's also the mayor of Hamilton.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So
I
how
mean,
many active family members are involved right now?
9,
So you got 9 in total,
including directors and managing directors.
And is that over a span of 2 or 3 generations?
2.
And you guys have managed to all. I'm sure you have some spats and whatever else, but you all get along pretty darn well.
We do. These guys, it's really wonderful. Very proud to see this 8th generation, how well they do get along. They all have their skill set, and they've all identified their skill set. So they really do work well together, and they respect each other's opinions, and it's really kind of good to see.
Because it's just rare to see that, 3 generations is rare to see nowadays.
Well,
but you guys obviously found the magic sauce to make it all work.
you make it past 3. Who cares what the generation number is? That is the achievement right there. Get past 3 generations and you're golden.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you talked
Right.
about almost being playing for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And,
Almost.
and I know, I knew you were close. Well, I mean,
Very
Joe
close.
was almost a DJ
Really?
or a photographer.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
He was the best DJ in Napa Valley
Really?
until he went to.
Yeah, no, my midlife crisis
down
is going to
south.
be going back to being a DJ.
He had the turntables and everything.
Oh,
Are you glad I bring
but-
this stuff up?
I was like 15. Don't listen to this guy.
That's awesome.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then it was photography.
Which I still love photography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so good.
I used to do all of our pictures for like all of our websites.
He
and
make
that
us all
stuff.
model for him.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like the vineyards, like early in the morning.
Yeah, that's
right. I actually didn't get to shoot as many naked women as I wanted to. Okay, that was
Just the bros were around. It's like, well,
Yeah, you
I got
do know.
this project. Okay, it's not. I don't want to do it, but I got to get an A. So you got to do this.
Now
thing.
get naked.
it turned into like landscaping photography because I'd be out at like these odd hours, sunrise and whatever else. So just beautiful, like all throughout the state. But it was fun. I don't carry my camera anymore because I got an iPhone and that thing does everything I could ever want it to do.
Yeah, so you don't use a
Yeah.
camera at all anymore?
Very rarely, probably once or twice a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I still love it, but it's I think the move to digital kind of changed it for me.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed film and developing film and kind of the art behind it. But yeah.
Yeah, he's really
Nice.
fun with social media because you're like our
Yeah.
social media manager, and like I'll help out with that. We're taking our pictures, and Joe will be, can I see? Well, maybe if you do it from here, and we gotta get the lighting up here. I mean, and we're like, actually, thank you.
Yeah.
I also love that. I want to see all this beautiful waxes just for people that are. I mean, if you're not watching, you should actually tune in because there's a lot of beautiful things to see. But we did have some fun today with the Black Seal, and we did kind of like this drip wax, which is more of your signature. Joe has his signature dip that he kind of did
Yeah.
half this.
Well, I
bottle.
ruined that.
Yeah,
one.
how did you get to that signature dip?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so it's interesting. I'm sure because you guys have the same battles with wax or the idea people have behind wax, and everybody forgets that it was the common seal,
Right.
for centuries,
Right.
right? Not only did it keep from oxygen getting in, any seepage getting out, any varmints getting in when it's
Mhm.
being transported on boat, all that
Mhm.
stuff. Someday or one day, some guy just invented a capsule out of, at the time, lead. And
Yeah.
that was great.
That's right.
Good, yeah, good call. and that became the cheap, easy option. But I don't think that they accounted for what would change in the wine over a long-term period, in wine in particular, and I assume to some degree spirits. And so the idea is still maintained that this cab will last for 40 years, no problem. And I don't believe they do if they got just a regular foil on them. I didn't learn about this until later on, after we started doing some testing with some of our wines that were 15 plus years old. Same wine, same vintage, one waxed and one unwaxed. But the origin of it came because I wanted to showcase the vineyard designates our higher tier compared to what our entry level Pinot Noir was, which is a lower price brand that we used to have. And it was at a time when Pinot Noir was not a cool wine, and so we wanted to somehow differentiate these two price points and some variation on label color as well. And then the wax became kind of our seal. I mean, much like what you guys have, it becomes like part of the brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a part of the brand that, while some servers may complain about it or people don't like how, it lacks the ease of getting into, there's also a romance to it.
Sure.
Exactly.
Like this, I actually like that part of it where you gotta work for something.
Yeah.
And I mean, our wax is pretty damn easy to get into, but it tells a story into itself, much like you guys have with your wax seal.
Mhm.
And then you've got your everyday option with a screw cap, right? And that's still a great seal, keeps oxygen out. Probably less likely to leak through than a cork if it gets hot. So I think there's a time and a place for different types of closure options. For us, it's gone similar to you guys. If it's cork, it's got wax. If it's not cork, it's got a screw cap. How about you guys? I mean, obviously, you guys predate foils.
Yeah. Well, literally, that was the only way that you could seal it back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was more tamper evidence and safety, I presume.
Sure.
Whatever it was they were thinking.
We never really thought about that.
Well, I mean, if you didn't have a seal on it, somebody could, empty all that rum out, fill it up with this, and then
exactly.
and then sell it.
The other side of our business too is we're importers and retailers and wholesalers of wines and spirits into Bermuda. And so we're also very proud to represent your
thank you.
state, right? And do quite well. Yeah. So we see that I've been admiring that wax dip for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Not so much this one. Maybe
Well,
that one, like right there, back there.
yeah,
Okay.
maybe that one. And was wondering how you could be so consistent with it. Now I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys ever need any help with waxing? Just let me know.
So when we were going around earlier, you were saying that spirits can use your wine cask, or maybe there have been spirits that have re-aged or reused the barrels that your wine barrels.
Yeah, like finishing it in our wine barrels.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really work the other way around.
No, there was do
well.
you recall there was kind of a craze for that? It was when whiskey was reaching a fever pitch, and you started seeing like these whiskey barrel aged Cabernets and stuff.
Yeah. You still see it with single malts and stuff, right?
It's still I still see a lot of spirits, but there was the craze where the actual wine was aged in a whiskey.
Oh
barrel.
no! Oh, sorry.
And
no, I don't remember that.
And I don't know if they had the story like they left a little bit of liquid in the belly of the barrel before they refilled it with the Cabernet, and so we're like, let's give it a shot. So we've tried it more times than we should, and it always turns out like garbage.
Yeah,
I think so.
And we have seen some benefit on the other end of the spectrum. Like we make a fortified white Albarino, so like a white port effectively, but because it's grown here, made here, we can't call it a port. We did that just to season barrels so that we could finish a single malt in them. And so we've been experimenting with that, and that seems to be working pretty well. But we haven't really seen a great effect of like our red barrels for finishing. Yeah, that would be harder to imagine. But I mean, wouldn't it be interesting if we sent you a tote or two of rum and you just right and you put it in one of your
I just really want to do the wax dip.
Do you want my address right now or later?
Yeah. And what about in California aged in one of your barrels? Right?
I guess it could work, yeah.
I think it would. Why wouldn't it?
You're watching a collaboration right now live.
So bond-to-bond transfer. I'm trying to think of how you do importing just a barrel of.
I would send it over to you. Remember, we ship out of Bermuda in bulk, right? So everything is all the blends, everything ready to go, but it's bottled at in Kentucky for the U.S. It's bottled in Zoetermeer, Netherlands for all of Europe, and in Montreal for Canada. So we have bulk here that I can just have totes shipped to you.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That we can try experiment aging with this. I mean, it could be really cool.
I'd be happy to try. We love trying anything.
And then you have to dip it. I mean, because there's no better dipper than you.
You gotta dip it. Gotta dip it. Yeah, that's fun. It's individuality.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And you gotta love the lovers of whatever you do, and you also got to appreciate the haters.
Yeah, we always kind of ask this too. I mean, do you guys get haters, or should I also say, is there any misconceptions of rum that you have opportunity to educate people? For example, Joe just shared with the wax seal. I mean, time and time again, we get that the wax is like some marketing play rather than having history or actually having useful.
Number one yeah, rum is full of sugar, therefore incredibly fattening. Never going to drink it, and so. Well, there's in Black Seal, there's less than 1/3 of a carb in a shot of our rum. So, and the calories are just slightly higher than that of vodka. So, yes, the ginger beer. That's why we make a diet ginger beer too.
The skinny.
For the skinny dark story. The ginger beer does have a lot of calories in it, but if you just drink Gosling's Black Seal rum and soda water, it's basically very similar to drinking a vodka and soda.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is one
with a lot more
misconception, but a lot more flavor.
Oh yeah.
That's one huge misconception.
Now, is that a
And now-
misconception here in the U.S. or is that everywhere?
It's kind of it's over here that you hear it more, and that's because that category that you were talking about at the beginning of the show is so vast, and you do have spiced rums and flavored rums and
Yeah.
artificially sweetened rums, and so you make anything taste smooth by adding sugar, right?
Yeah.
So you do have those rums out there that probably are loaded with calories
Yeah.
and so forth, but not when you're talking about these and really fine aged and blended products. So that's one huge misconception.
If you were to give advice to somebody on selecting a rum just based on the label, what are like the 3 top things they should be looking for?
They should be looking for, number one, a seal balancing a rum barrel. The word Goslings. Really, we don't put an age statement on ours because to do it truthfully, you need to, all of these are blends.
Yeah.
So you would have to use the youngest
I know.
age.
Yeah.
And that can often be misleading because the consumer will sit there and they'll go, oh, 16 years. Well, this one says 25. It's got to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Not the case.
Yeah.
All right. That's 16 years and has 22-year-old rum in it as well. Right. So, Black Seal was 3 to 8 years. Right. You would have to put 3-year-old rum in on Black Seal. It's much better than 3-year-old rum.
Yeah.
So, that's why we don't put an age statement on it.
Well, and you guys
Ourselves.
as a brand have transcended those kind of nice to haves.
Right.
Yeah. You've already proven your weight in producing quality rum over the many years you guys have done it. So, I think that's a great thing. Focus on the brand and the branding of the sub brand.
Yeah.
And
And you just got to know the producer, right? And to make sure that they are a quality producer that aren't going to be just, sugaring up their rum for smoothness. You can taste it. The minute it hits your mouth, it kind of coats the inside of your mouth.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
I'm not going to name a brand.
It's a non-spicy version of Fireball. It's really, really good for you.
Joe will name the brands.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just let him.
Thanks, Joe.
He'll say it.
Pleasure having you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for spending the day with you, showing you around the winery. I'm looking forward to getting down and seeing, what you guys do and how you do it. I mean, I'm always just enthralled with what's behind the lines and then being able to meet you guys, and obviously the few and the far between of a family involved in the business,
Well,
which is really, really great.
and it does bode well for the future because in our little mixology session earlier, for those of you that don't know, we actually blended our own wine. We had a little competition, and with the connoisseurs here, Malcolm unanimously won. So the 8th generation has got that talent.
You were very confident
For
going
the-
into that
for the
too.
blends going. I really was. Anyway,
Nobody
But,
made a bad bottle of wine today. I'll say that. We're
Well.
splitting hairs here.
I want to ask, do you go by Junior?
Yeah,
Like-
just to avoid confusion, but technically I'm not. The second named after my grandfather.
Okay.
mine did. So
His dad.
So you're the third.
So I'm the second,
Oh, you're second. Okay.
I have,
but not a junior because I'm not technically named after him.
Oh. Okay.
Because you want to get into this?
Yeah.
He, so my grandmother came from Canada. Came down to Bermuda as a nurse.
Yeah.
Second World War, just after. Her father back in Canada, his name was Malcolm. She got to Bermuda, married my grandfather Malcolm, and then they had him and named him after her father. So he's Edmund Malcolm Burns. His name was Malcolm Burns Gosling. And I'm named Malcolm Lloyd Gosling, the second after my grandfather, Malcolm Lloyd Gosling. And then I just had a son 2 months ago, and I just wanted to keep this confusion thing going. And so I named him after him. So he's Edmund Malcolm Burns Gosling the second.
You cannot make this stuff up. It's actually happening.
This is a great story. That's a great story.
We're much more imaginative with our blends than we are with names.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that might actually be the most imaginative way of passing down family names I've ever heard. That was good. And you can only do that after, you got to have like 3 in a row that are willing to do something a little off the wall, and then all of a sudden it becomes a theme for the rest of your family for the rest of the time. Well, great. Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much.
You guys on.
Thank you.
Enjoy that Papa Seal.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Chris,
looking forward to having you in
Thank you,
Bermuda.
Thanks.